Hello everyone. In this session, we are going to discuss about production ecology. In an ecosystem, the sensitive ecological balance, in fact, the continuity of life depends upon two things. That is energy producing and energy consuming processes. These two should be coupled in such a way that the ecological balance should be maintained. Energy production is restricted only to a group of autotrophic organisms, many of which are having the capacity of converting light energy into chemical energy. Some non-photosynthetic organisms also can oxidize and reduce or inorganic compounds and utilize the chemical energy liberated in the process. But the ultimate source of energy in all cases is the sun. So we have to understand about the production of energy and the transference of energy from one level to another level in an ecosystem. The rate of biomass production is called as productivity. Here, the portion of fixed energy, a trophic level passes to the next trophic level is called as production. Every minute, each centimeter square of the Earth's surface receives about 1.34 kilocalories of solar energy. The process, especially that is photosynthesis, on which life depends, however, can only utilize up to 2.5% of this particular total solar energy that falls onto the surface of Earth. But even so, about 10 to the power of 11 tons of carbon is fixed from the atmosphere per year by the photosynthetic organisms or chemosynthetic organisms. The photosynthetic bacteria, which are usually present in anaerobic environment in aquatic sediments, especially where light intensity is low, fix small amounts of carbon dioxide and nitrogen from the surrounding environment. In many lakes, the contribution of photosynthetic sulfur bacteria is no more than 5% of the total organic matter production per unit time. The green plants, especially the forests, are the main sources of productivity in an ecosystem. This productivity in ecosystem is of two kinds, that is primary productivity and secondary productivity. Green plants fix solar energy and accumulate it in organic forms as chemical energy. As this is the first and basic form of energy storage, the rate at which the energy accumulates in the green plants or produces is known as primary productivity. So you have to understand that the solar energy is fixed by the green plants, and this kind of production is called as a primary productivity. It is a rate function and is expressed in terms of dry matter produced or energy captured per unit area of land per unit time. That means if there is a forest in particular area, the amount of sunlight it is capturing and the amount of carbohydrate it is producing using that particular solar energy in the unit area per unit time is called as productivity. So it is often expressed as energy in calories per centimeter square per year or dry organic matter in grams. Either it could be in energy, that is calories, or dry organic matter in grams per meter square per year. Hence, the productivity of different ecosystems can be easily compared. You can definitely compare the productivity of a desert with a grassland, or the productivity of the grassland with that of a forest, or the productivity of the forest with that of an ocean or lake. This primary productivity is understood in two aspects, that is gross and net. So we have two kinds of productivity, that is primary and secondary. Primary productivity also has two aspects, that is gross and net. So the total solar energy trapped in the food material by photosynthesis is referred to as gross primary productivity. So whatever organism which is an autotroph, which is trapping solar energy and then converting it into food material or carbohydrate, that amount of food material which is produced by the trapping of solar energy is referred to as gross primary productivity. So the organism will be using whatever it has produced, it will be using for its own growth and development or for its own respiration. So a good fraction of this gross primary productivity is utilized in respiration of the autotrophs. The amount of energy-bound organic matter created per unit area and time that is left after respiration is called as net primary productivity or NPP. So, if for example, we take the example of a plant, the plant is fixing the solar energy in the form of carbohydrate. This amount of food which is produced by fixing the solar energy is called as gross primary productivity. In this gross primary productivity, the plant uses some of it for its own respiration. So that particular, after we remove this amount of food material which is utilized for its own respiration, whatever is left in the plant, for it to transfer it to the next trophic level, that will be called as net primary productivity or NPP. So if you have to calculate or if you have to derive a formula for this, net productivity of energy, NPP, is equal to gross productivity, that is GPP, minus energy lost in respiration. So this is a formula which tells us how much, if we know about the amount of food which is lost in respiration and gross productivity, we can come to or we can derive net productivity. Or if we know the amount of food which is passed to the next trophic level, and if you know the amount of gross productivity, we can get the amount of energy which is lost in respiration. So effectively, we can say that an autotroph can supply food material for the next level of the food pyramid. It is only the NPP which is needed for the, or which is transferred to the next level. Okay. The rates at which the heterotrophic organisms resynthesize the energy yielding substances are called as secondary productivity. So we have learned about the primary productivity. It is shown by only the autotrophs. Now, if the plant, for example, or the grass is eaten by a hare or a deer or a cow, here what happens is the herbivore is taking the autotroph or producer. After taking food from the plant, the animal will resynthesize the energy yielding substances. And this is called as secondary productivity. So, here the net primary productivity results in the accumulation of plant biomass which serves the food of herbivores and decomposes. That is what we have just now discussed. So here, whatever is there in the plant as accumulation of biomass, it is going to that is net productivity, net primary productivity, that only is available for the herbivores. And herbivores will resynthesize this food from the plants and utilize for their own growth and development, and then probably pass it on to the next level of the food or next trophic level of the food pyramid. It is notable that the food of consumers has been produced by the primary producers, and secondary productivity depicts only the utilization of this food for the production of consumer biomass. So when the consumer is increasing its biomass, it is nothing but the food which is got from the primary producers. Now, this secondary productivity is the productivity of animals and saprobes in the ecosystem. Now, the herbivores are eaten by the carnivores. So, herbivores are also sending their biomass to the next trophic level. But you cannot call it as primary productivity because herbivores are not fixing solar energy. They are indirectly dependent upon the autotrophs or the producers. So, excuse me. So, when they pass it on to the carnivores, and when the carnivores die or herbivores die or the plants producers die, all these energy rich bodies are decomposed by the saprobes in the ecosystem. So this whatever energy or productivity is going along these trophic levels and ultimately to the saprobes is the secondary productivity. Now, how can you understand the concept of productivity? You have to understand what a standing crop is, how the materials are removed and the production rate. First, let us understand about the standing crop. What is a standing crop? This is the abundance of organisms existing in the area at any given time. It may be expressed in terms of number of individuals, as biomass of organisms, as energy content, or in some other suitable term. So, for example, if you take a forest, you can say that number of oak, suppose we are only studying about the importance of oak trees, then the abundance of oak trees in that particular area is called as the standing crop. It is expressed here in this case as number of individual, that is the number of oak trees which are present in that particular area, or also in the biomass of oak trees. Suppose there are 10 oak trees, what is the entire biomass of all these 10 oak trees? That could also be a measurement of standing crop. Or the amount of energy content it is having at any particular given time is also understood as a standing crop. Measurement of standing crop reveals the concentration of individuals in various populations of the ecosystem. So, when we are concentrating about measurement of standing crop, we can say 10 oak trees, 100 maple trees, or 45 maple trees, 10 buttercups. Like this, we can give the number of the standing crop, and that shows the concentration of those particular individuals in that particular ecosystem. So population of buttercups or population of oak trees or population of maple trees, these are nothing but the measurement of standing crop. Then the second concept of productivity is the materials removed from area per unit time. Now, for example, we can say the amount of carbon dioxide fixed by the given plants in a particular area in one particular year, that is called as material removed. It includes the yield to man, organisms removed from the ecosystem by migration, and also materials withdrawn as organic deposit. So carbon dioxide could be an example for materials withdrawn as organic deposit, or amount of nitrogen consumed by a legume plant over a period of time, or the number of organisms removed from the ecosystem by migration. So it could also include yield to man. That means how much of crop has gone to man. That could also be known as materials removed. Then the third concept of productivity is production rate. It is production rate at which the growth processes are going forward within the area. So the amount of material formed by each link in the food chain per unit of time, per unit area or volume is called as a production rate. Just now we have learnt about primary productivity and secondary productivity. So at the base of the food pyramid or at the starting point of the food chain, whatever organism is present, that is the producer, the amount of food it is able to produce in that particular area, in that particular time is called as the production rate. Some of it uses for its own purposes, others it will send it to the next trophic level. So the next trophic level, that is the primary consumer or a herbivore, that will assimilate and resynthesize energy giving products, and then after utilizing for its own purpose, it will send it to the next level. So that is the production rate of that second level. So like this, in a food chain or a food web or in an food pyramid, you will see that each level has a different production rate. Now, what are the environmental factors which affect the productivity in an ecosystem? Basically, since the entire ecosystem is dependent upon the sunlight for its food, for its energy, solar radiation and temperature play a very, very important role in the productivity of an ecosystem. Then moisture, that is leaf water potential, soil moisture, fluctuation of precipitation and transpiration, all these things also will affect the rate of productivity. Mineral nutrition, that is uptake of minerals from soil, rhizosphere effects, fire effects, salinity, heavy metals and nitrogen metabolism are the third environmental factor which affects our productivity. Then biotic activities, that is grazing, above ground herbivores, below ground herbivores, predators, parasites and diseases of primary producers. These also play a role in productivity of an ecosystem, because if the primary producers is affected by any disease, its rate of productivity decreases. Hence, the ecosystem productivity also decreases. Impact of human populations, that is populations of different sorts, ionizing radiation such as atomic explosions, etc. Especially this particular factor, that is impact of human populations, is playing a major havoc in the productivity of most of the ecosystems nowadays. Then in aquatic systems, productivity is generally limited by light, which decreases with increasing water depth. So as we go down the lake or a ocean or a pond or a river, the productivity decreases because the light penetration slows down and that is reduces. In deep oceans, nutrients often become limiting factor for productivity. So nitrogen is the most important nutrient limiting productivity in marine ecosystems. So these are all the factors which affect the productivity of an ecosystem. Any of these things are in dirt, then the entire productivity of that particular ecosystem reduces drastically. The largeness of primary productivity depends upon the photosynthetic capacity of producers and the existing environmental conditions such as solar radiation, temperature, soil moisture, etc. So, in tropical conditions, primary productivity may remain continuous throughout the year provided adequate soil moisture remains available. Hence, tropical conditions yield the world's largest productivity. While in temperate regions, primary productivity is limited by cold climate and a short snow-free growing period during the year. You can estimate terrestrial primary production as 57.4 into 10 to the power of 16 kilocalories per year, about half of which comes from the evergreen forests in the tropical and subtropical regions. And you can see that entire production, terrestrial production, half of which is coming from tropical and subtropical regions. Then 1/5 is contributed by grasslands and pastures. Total primary productivity per year is about 10 to the power of 18 kilocalories. And something around 175 million tons of nitrogen is fixed by microorganisms independently or in association with other organisms, especially higher plants. And permanent grasslands contribute about 1/4 of this amount, and forests and woodlands about 1/5 of the particular amount. Of all this, a part of the carbon fixed is lost in respiration. A small amount may also be lost as ammonia and excreta, and the difference between these two is the net biomass of that particular area. So, let us summarize the entire primary productivity of major ecosystems in the world as follows. Here you are able to see major world's ecosystems, and these are all the geographical area we are talking about. Something around 10 to the power of 6 kilometer square, and then the plant biomass present and mean net primary productivity. So we are talking about the productivity which is going for the next level in the trophical excuse me, trophic level. We're not talking about the gross productivity here. It is a net productivity. Tropical rainforest, you are able to see something around 20 tons per hectare per year. That's what we have just now seen in this previous slide. The tropical conditions, the primary productivity is throughout the year, and provided there is a adequate soil moisture available throughout the year they produce. So we are having world's half of the productivity comes from tropical rainforests and deciduous forests. You can see 20 plus 15, 35 tons per hectare per year. Then comes the temperate deciduous forest and coniferous forest, where you can see 12 and 8 respectively. So 1/5 of the total production is coming from the temperate areas. Then the grasslands, savannas and temperate grasslands, it is something around 9 and 5 tons per hectare per year. And desert shrub is giving 0.7 tons. You see, this is the difference between the tropical, temperate and grasslands, temperate forests and grasslands, where the productivity is basically concentrated on the in the tropical forest, whether it is rainforest or deciduous forest. If you see the biomass also, you will understand that almost 800 tons per hectare of biomass, mean plant biomass, is seen in tropical forest, whereas 500 is seen in the temperate forest, and 60 is seen in the savannas and temperate grasslands, and desert shrubs will yield only 10 tons per hectare. So this is the way you can see that productivity of the tropical rainforest and deciduous forest is more. Net primary productivity is more in these areas than the temperate forests and grasslands. So, thank you.